so I'm going to move on to the investment sheet, where you're going to see that unrestricted cash has a balance now of $70 million. In April, we had a balance of $30 million. The cause of that is collection of payroll tax revenues in May, and that's that quarterly collection. So you'll see that spike on a quarterly basis. As well, we've started to get the federal approvals for the preventive maintenance grants. Those approvals usually come late in the year. We've already done all the spending on the eligible costs for those grants. So as soon as we get the approval, we draw those down. So we drew down $13 million in the month of May related to preventive maintenance, and that all goes towards general fund costs. And actually in the month of June, we've been able to draw down another $36 million. So that's putting us in a better cash position from an unrestricted basis, so we have some cash to operate on, which is a good thing.
Laura, to a question. I asked this question at, I think, the last board meeting, and Neil, I know you and I talked about this. If we don't have an answer today, it's just something I'd like us to focus on for the future,
Sure.
Which is, what's a good industry norm in terms of unrestricted cash that we should have on hand?
And I know that
we have such a huge, fluctuation
Yes.
from month to month, but what's a good gauge? So I need help with that.
We're actually working on that information for you, and we're going to get you some trend information on what our unrestricted balances have been in the past. So I think it'll be a good conversation to defer to the next meeting, because we'll have better information to be able to share with you.
Okay.
The policy of the board has historically been to have about 3 months worth of working capital available, knowing that it would be drawn down or could be drawn down in times of a recession where you're trying to be able to have a soft landing going into reduced expenditure levels. When we're running about 1.2 right
That's
now,
correct.
1.1 months,
Yes.
Which is at the low end of that. There had been, since then, really, instead of trying to just have a general number, really go through and now analyze on a risk basis each of our categories. It comes out a little bit less than that previous policy, but about the same. But more will be coming to you, and also in the Finance and Audit Committee.
All right, excellent. Thank you.
Okay, I'd also like to point out on the investment report that there's a new category on here, dollars restricted for West collateral. Portland and Western, we had a letter of credit to support our self-insurance reserve on the commuter rail, and when that letter of credit came due, we actually negotiated with them to just create a collateral account, so we're not having to pay bank fees on a letter of credit, and we're earning a little bit of interest. So that, you'll see that as a restricted dollar amount, as that's set aside in case there are ever any self-insurance claims on that line. As far as yields on investments right now, historic lows, we have a 0.3% yield on a one-year treasury at this point. So we're continuing to invest very conservatively. Pretty much all of our investing is short-term, so that we can watch the market and see if we can get some better returns in the future, hopefully.
Great. Are there further questions of Lori? Okay. Go ahead, Lynn.
Question, Lori, on page 2 on the current period that you had went over on the, let's see, on the operating statement,
Yes.
fiscal year 10.
Yes.
Just a question, under bus transportation, materials and services, we budgeted $251,000 and we spent $3 million. How did we under budget that?
Well, that's the question that Brian responded to. That was
you
the...
did he earlier? I must have missed it. Sorry, I was sleeping through it.
So there was a settlement of one claim that got booked in May, as well as some additional reserves that were booked in that month. And so when you're budgeting, you certainly can't anticipate those sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely. My apologies.
That's right.
That's okay.
Pay attention.
So does that assume then that we're self-insured?
Yes, we are.
So, okay, I see. Got it. All right.
So, thank you, Lori. Does that conclude your presentation?
Yes.
Well, and Lori is subbing for Beth the Hamel today, and good job. I know that new board members in particular have a lot of questions that are all good questions that need to be answered, and perhaps we can have a bit of a primer at one of the future informal board meetings to kind of go over the basic finances of the organization. I know that one great narrative to read is the budget narrative at the beginning of our annual budget that we're set to adopt today. So, all right. Sure.
I hope that it's not just the new folk that ask
Yeah.
questions. But in
Well, we always count on Lynn asking questions.
I just wanted to make a request. It would be a little bit easier if these reports would be titled. I know you have a title on them, but like Report A, Report B, or something like that.
Okay.
It gives an ease in referring when we're asking
Yes.
questions, or someone is
Yeah.
asking a question, where you're going. By the time
Yeah.
the question is discussed and I find the report,
You're moved on to something else.
Well, as you noticed, I was having the same problem.
Yeah.
Time we have those labels.
But thank you very much for the reports, excellent reports. Just want to be able to keep up with what we're discussing.
Sure, thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thanks, Mark.